On se demande ce à quoi les Canadiens s'attendent à voir lors de notre cérémonie d'ouverture, alors on a demandé à des Vancouverois de nous donner leur opinion à ce sujet.
Well, you got to showcase the lumberjack in us, and something about camping and the outdoor lifestyle, I would say, is the best thing about Canada.
I think we've come a long way by including the First Nations people.
I guess I'd invite all the different ethnic communities out.
I'd make sure that the different classes of people are represented, right from the bourgeois down to the dumpster diver level.
Snow and snowboarders and, yeah, beavers.
La planification d'une cérémonie d'ouverture olympique se fait dans le plus grand des secrets et peut demander 2 à 3 ans de préparation. Mais ce qui est de plus impressionnant, c'est ces quelques billions de gens qui vont être à l'écoute afin de découvrir ce que le pays hôte a à offrir au monde entier.
I think it's awesome. It'll be a great time and it'll be lots and lots of fun.
Hopefully just audition for holding the placard, so that would be really nice if I could get that one.
Well, I've always wanted to be part of the Olympics, and I'm not old enough to volunteer, so this is my only shot to be part of them.
But a friend did it, said it was really rewarding, it was really fun, it was a blast.
It went awesome.
Yeah, was it fun?
A lot of fun. We had magic fingers.
Who knows, maybe I'll be the male lead for the show.
Oh, it was amazing. I've never been to audition. I thought it'd be intimidating, but they made sure we had a good time.
Et pourquoi pas demander au producteur lui-même? Vancouver2010.com a rencontré David Atkins, producteur et directeur artistique des Cérémonies olympiques. Ce nom peut vous paraître familier puisqu'il a été le producteur de la cérémonie d'ouverture à Sydney.
What are your goals with the 2010 opening ceremony?
I think the single greatest ambition for me in delivering these ceremonies is that I've gone back to grassroots, I've gone back to my sort of theatre training and tried to create a level of intimacy and a level of storytelling and emotional resonance that I don't think's been in a ceremony of this scale before. It's a difficult thing to do on the sort of scales that we're talking in stadia.
With the Sydney Games, you went the theatrical route and told a story. But what are some of the other paths you could take with opening ceremonies?
There's probably 3 basic models. We had a story, but it was a bit like the story we're likely to tell here, that it wasn't a sort of lineal story, like a narrative that went from A to B. Although we did have a character. There was a little girl who became the thread, sort of woven through the story to give the audience a sort of a way of a point of reference for everything, and she became that point of reference. And that sort of narrative version. And then you've got the other sort of television model, which is where television producers were more, I guess, influential on the ceremonies than theatrical or choreographers have been since. And they became sort of segments, and each segment told its own story. So, and a good example of that is LA or Atlanta, where you had 8 or 9 different segments. They weren't necessarily related to each other. They didn't actually progress the story, but they gave you another insight into a part of the culture of the host city and country. But there wasn't any common thread. There wasn't any person. There wasn't any narrative. There was no sort of no through line as such. So there's that one, and then there's the really sort of esoteric versions like Albertville, where where it's all about a particular aesthetic.
And with the ceremonies, there are a few mandatory elements. Does that constrain you at all?
As long as the protocol elements follow an order, and that order doesn't change, we can put things in between them. We can have an hour in between 2 of them if we want. So they're quite that's relatively liberating in terms of a structure. There are certain things like the entrance of the torch and the lighting of the cauldron, which are very, very prescriptive, and they have to happen in a certain order at a certain time.
How do you cross language barriers? You're speaking to the world right now, but how do you tell that story that everyone can understand?
Well, it's a visual medium, so our language is pictures. So and pictures are very subjective. Everyone's going to see them differently, but you hope that within the audience's perception of that picture that they're going to pick up on some of what you're trying to convey, whether it's emotional or it's expositional or it's just thematic.
What kind of research went into it?
Although I have to say, I was largely uninformed about Canada when we started this journey. And so we started it with the symposiums, which you know a bit about. We invited cultural figures from around Canada to participate in a cultural exchange that eventuated in a sort of tome of ideas and concepts, very broad, that gave us the foundation to move forward on. And we travel the country extensively. We've been, I've been from here to, I've been on fishing boats off the coast of Newfoundland. I've been, I watched the Aurora Borealis in Yellowknife. I've chased bears in Lake Louise, and I've surfed in Tofino. I've been all over the country.
BC Place Stadium, it's an indoor venue. Does that present any sort of challenges for you?
Yeah, it does. The building, challenges and advantages. Being indoors is an incredible advantage. The building itself, however, because it's an airlocked building, because it's an inflatable roof, means access and egress is only through two entrances. You can either get, and both those entrances are airlocked. And on the other hand, the venue presented us with all these opportunities that we wouldn't have if we were outdoors, because of the stable environment, because of the fact that there's no wind, because we can hang things in the air, whereas in a, and have them there permanently, whereas in a normal stadium, you can't do that.
Well, best of luck.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing it.
It's big.
Beautiful.
Laid back.
Sophisticated. It doesn't get more West Coast than this. Some call it British Columbia, Canada.
But we call it home. British Columbia 2010.
You gotta be here.
Pour réussir vos vacances en Colombie-Britannique, visitez hellobc.com.